So in my life there have been so many things which I thought myself I would be and how I was that actually weren't true at all. But I was absolutely convinced, and so they manifested as real for me, in my reality. Mm, for example, almost whole my life I was absolutely convinced that I will never be good in any sports whatsoever, and I will never be uh, able to do sports really. So I gave in to this, and I became clumsy and lazy. And the interesting part of it was that my body, my whole life, uh, told me a very different story, but I didn't listen. My mind didn't listen. I was absolutely convinced that this is me. I can't do any sports. I am fat and I am clumsy and I'm not able to do any sports. So my body was still in a very good condition over the years, um, regardless of what I was doing, and that I didn't do any sports, and that I was lazy and I didn't eat very well. But my body told me all the time, here I am, you can use it or leave it, but I am able to do these things. So I gave in to this idea of myself not being a sportsman. So it turned out at the age of 30, I had a traumatic experience in my life, and not so very much in the physical, but in the mind, and it was a shock to the system, so to speak. And from this point on, I wanted to totally change my life and change everything. And I don't really know if I thought that it was a question of mind power to do this, or why I, at this point, was able to believe that this was possible. I think it was just because there was no other way for me to to do something. So I started changing some things. I stopped drinking alcohol completely. I stopped smoking completely, and I wanted to prove to myself and to others as well that because there is this rumor that if you stop smoking you're gonna get fat and fatter, and simply wanted to prove that this is just a question of will. And so I started running, stopped all these things and started running. I began to, at that time I didn't eat meat uh, for about 6-7 years now. So when I was 30, this is 4 years ago. So I already didn't eat meat, but I started to eat more fruits and vegetables and whatever. started to Wanted to change my nutrition, and yes, I did this, and it was a very hard fight. The first runnings for me were very painful, and I had pain in my knees, and everything was hurting. My whole body was aching, and but I fought through this. I went through this, and I didn't quit this process. And after all, it became easier and easier, and I became quite good in this, and finally it was fun for me. So at that stage I didn't realize that this, what I was doing there, was also uh, a mind game, and it was also a kind of addiction. So my body reacted in a way that felt very good for me, and as I expected, and I automatically linked this to my running experience and exercises, and it was the case. But after a while, I had very special difficulties and other, how could I say, illnesses and problems, pains, and so on. And I didn't really understand this, where this came from, and but that's another story. Um, the interesting thing about changing your behavior that way is that you can uh, that you are able to watch in real time the changes your body is going through, and you can try and error learn how to, which behavior makes what kind of changes to your body. And in this case it was first linked to my physical action, my running, but what you have to take into consideration is your mental preposition as well. This means what you intend to do and what is the true motivation for what you are doing. And this is quite an interesting aspect, and this would make many vlogs to go into this in detail, but this is a very interesting principle because your body has its own um, programs and its own language, so to speak, and as long as you don't really understand this language, you will not really understand how he is reacting, how your body is reacting, and what will cause what kinds of reactions and developments. So when you take sports, for example, and you do sports in a competitive way, and you try to compete not only with others but also with yourself, and you always try to become better and better, and you want to feel superior to others, that is a mind program that has very much power and can force you and drag you to yeah, to absolute limits of doing sports and of your own body, to the limits of the limited physical body possibilities. And if you do this, there's one thing that most of the time you don't take into consideration, and that is that the stress you cause in your mind and you cause upon your body.